This special presentation was produced in high definition by WEDU, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota.
Talking Animals is a popular radio show broadcast in the Tampa Bay area. Host and mastermind Duncan Strauss joins us to talk about the ins and outs of putting together a lively show geared toward animal causes. And he's bringing some of his furry friends for us to meet. Welcome to Up Close. I'm Cathy Unruh. Today we're going behind the scenes of Tampa Bay's popular radio show, Talking Animals, and meeting the show's mastermind, Duncan Strauss. Talking Animals began in Irvine, California, and has made its home at WMNF since 2005. Producer-host Duncan Strauss fills his time slot interviewing celebrities, animal rights activists, and notable animal experts. And you could say he has a doggone good time doing his job.
That was an eco case with People Got a Lot of Nerve here on Talking Animals. Tune to ease us into today's edition. My name's Duncan Strauss, here with our program that is devoted to all subjects.
I'm Duncan Strauss. I host Talking Animals on WMNF.
Let's Talk Turkey, as it were, produced by the Talking Animals award-winning Rip and Read News Department. Our first item comes in the wake of last week's conversation about decline.
We include animal songs, a little piece of animal comedy each time, a little quiz feature called Name That Animal Tune, in which people can win fabulous prizes. And then we all have now, with the hour-long weekly format, we have an expanded segment called Animal News and Announcements. Oh my goodness, I gotta do everything I can to not take these guys home myself. Alright, so this is Buddy and Smokey. I was looking around at shows that existed, and just, I just want to make sure I wasn't duplicating, and but really make it clear that with all those other elements that are part of the show, that a key thing is discussing animals and animal issues.
He went to the vet's office and he had to wear hobbles on his back legs for about 2 weeks.
As long as I have that mix, I think the listener experience hopefully is, hey, I really learned something. Maybe I won't do this next time, or maybe I'll eat a bit less meat, or maybe I'll become a vegetarian, even a vegan. But again, steady influx of dogs to them, and apparently to you. So what is the Georgia thing?
You know,
I feel really, really lucky to be at WMNF. It's a great station. There's just all kinds of great folks, a sense of community, and also I feel like I'm really reaching a lot of people.
It's time to proceed to name that animal tune, and there'll be a prize, a Talking Animals mug. Again, something of a collector's item these days. To the first person who calls 813-239-9663 and correctly identifies this animal tune, it's Name That Animal Tune on Talking Animals.
And Duncan is with us in the studio today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Cathy. Delighted to be here.
How'd you come up with the idea for Talking Animals?
Well, in the 2001, 2002 area, I was making some changes, personal changes, professional changes, and have a big genetic bent towards public service in our family. And so I was thinking, okay, well, let's come up with something cool that contribute in that way. What are my chief passions? Well, they're animals, they're radio, they're journalism, they're music, they're comedy. And so that got me sort of, thinking and looking around at radio shows and thinking, wow, there's some cool radio shows out there, but they're kind of either vet pet shows or kind of animal rights, vegan. What if they were broader and covered all those things and also brought in some other elements like music and comedy to sort of leave in the tougher topics that often come up in a show like this. So.
And this is another topic altogether, but public service is actually carried in the genes?
In our genes, I'm proud to say it is, yeah. I mean...
and how about animals? Did your family have an interest in animals? You grew up with that?
Yeah, grew up with a lot of animals, and one of the things that happened, there's Knott's Berry Farm out where I came from, Southern California, and for a while there they had Old MacDonald's farm, and so every so often we'd go when I was a little kid, and they had a mynah bird there, and I became just enchanted with this mynah bird, and my first job was a paper route as soon as I turned 10 so I could get my own mynah bird. So always had a fascination for animals, and there were always animals in the house. Yeah.
So the show started in 2003 in Irvine, California, because that's where you lived.
That's right.
And then it moved to Florida.
Yeah, my family and I moved to Florida in 2005, and I was fortunate enough to find a home for it at WMNF, and so it started off monthly, which is kind of like, let's see what this guy has, and then it went to twice a month, and then just as of this year, I'm really excited and delighted that it's on now for an hour every week, every Wednesday at 11 a.m.
and we can tell it's popular because it keeps getting more airtime.
Well, I like that interpretation, Kathy. Yes.
We talked a little bit about your family and that you grew up with animals around you. But how deep and wide is your commitment to animals? What's your personal philosophy, lifestyle?
Well, I mean, I'm a vegetarian. I care about animals on a broad level. That's why I wanted to create this kind of show, so that it would deal with dogs and dog training one week, and then you know, cruelty in circus animals, let's say, the next week, and factory farming the week after that, and then back to cats, so that it could really, if people have interest in the pets that they have in their living room, my thought was, you know, they probably, with a little prodding and again some comedy and music in there, could be prompted to have a broader interest as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not just straight talk. You do some fun things. Talking is fun, excuse me.
No,
but you throw some other fun things in.
We're talking right now.
Too, yes.
But yeah, no. Each show does include some animal songs and a little animal comedy piece, and then we have a contest called Name That Animal Tune, where people can win prizes. And yeah, so that really helps with the balance, because sometimes those topics are a bit grim, and but you know, we can't not talk about them for that reason. So it's just nice to mix it up a little bit from beginning to end of the show and from show to show. And
over the years, you've had some really impressive guests on your show.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, you know, some have taken many years to land. I mean, Jane Goodall is a perfect example.
For anyone who just might not know who she is, explain.
Sure. Well, for all the way back to the 60s, she sort of was a pioneer in chimp research, and
you worked for years to get her on the show?
I did indeed, yeah. I just kept trying and trying, because nobody said no. It's just like, well, she travels 300-something days a year, and she's busy, and this and that. So, but finally, last December, actually a year ago December now, I guess, it did work out, and I was just thrilled. And you know, I've had others like Alec Baldwin and Rick O'Barry, who of course was part of the Oscar-winning Cove film, and many others. Yeah.
A lot of people are very familiar with Alec Baldwin right now, of course, because he has a primetime show. What is his interest in animals?
He has. It's interesting. That interest was sort of spurred, if not introduced, by Kim Basinger, his ex-wife. But he has interest in elephants, circus elephants, etc. He has interest in factory farming and just the environmental and other consequences of the plant-based diet, as opposed to the meat diet and everything that goes with that. So, you know, he's really plugged in a lot of ways. And
you've had musicians, comedians, various people from the entertainment world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, fairly recently, Brian May, the guitarist with the band Queen, turns out to be a huge activist, and really spending a lot of time, but on issues that are, again, not as familiar to us. But I thought, again, given the broad scope of the show, he's really concerned about fox hunting in the UK and this proposed badger cull. So we had a great conversation, and he could not have been nicer. Plus, he has a PhD in astrophysics, so incredibly bright, committed guy. So that was great.
You've even had a talking animal on Talking Animals.
Yes, for those who know Conan O'Brien's show, or at least an earlier version of Conan O'Brien's show, probably know Triumph, the insult comic dog. And yeah, back in the California years, I was able to interview Triumph, and I think that brushed right up against all FCC regulations.
What does Triumph, the insult comic dog, do?
He says fairly offensive things, just as people would expect on the TV show, and said many offensive things to me and my listeners on that show. So like I say, I think we just held on to our license barely by the time that interview was completed. Yeah.
So there's such a plethora of topics and people that you can have and ways that you can go. How do you decide what topic you want to do?
Well, a lot of times it's as much about guess and sort of what is another way to illuminate some basic topics. Spay, neuter are always important. Adoption is always important. So if I find that there's an actor or a notable author or someone else who feels passionate about that, that's a great way, because people are saying, well, if you're going to have Brian May on or Alec Baldwin on, I'm interested, whatever the conversation is, and then that's a way to reach broader people about some of these issues. So a lot of times it is really about the guest first and what issues are important to them, and so, you know, introducing those to people who said, gosh, I had no idea that they were interested in that, or that was a problem even. And a lot of people are still, you know, finding out that some of the things that go on in circuses that use animals, and they're like, wow, I had no idea. I won't go to those circuses anymore. So a lot of it's about the guests. Sometimes if someone just has a great new book out, it's, you know, that's important. If they
Are you able to pick a favorite episode and the most challenging one?
Well, I mean, just because there was so much that went into booking these, I mean, Jane Goodall, who I mentioned before, took many years. Alec Baldwin took 5 years of persistence to try to get that booking. So those were kind of really notable to me in many, many ways. And also, of course, they're hugely significant figures in their respective fields.
And if you had to say the biggest thing that you have learned since you started doing this show?
That we all kind of have, whatever our interest in animals are, we all have things to learn, and we all kind of have some blind spots just based on how we were raised, culturally, otherwise. And so the show is kind of really aiming to have me, along with all the listeners, learn things from all these experts and sort of plug those holes.
To eliminate some of the blind spots.
Exactly.
Now, we talked earlier before going on the air that because you do the show, people really expect you to be the expert on all things animal.
They do, and I always have tried to present myself as really the guy interested in the expert, but not as the expert. So sometimes I get questions that really a veterinarian should answer, an animal behaviorist should answer, someone else that's more scientifically based should answer, and I try to refer them to those people because again, it's the other people on the end of the conversation on Talking Animals who typically are the experts. So.
Well, we have some questions from our viewers.
Okay.
And true to form, they expect you to be the expert on all things animals. We want to see how you do. Are you game for some questions?
I'm game. We'll give it our best shot. Sure.
Okay, here we go. Our first viewer question is from Cathy. She lives in South Tampa, and her pet is Penny. Cathy says, we found Penny in a dumpster, literally in a dumpster, and brought her home to live with us. She's had some difficulty adjusting to her new home because we also have an additional dog. What is the best way to get her acclimated after such a traumatizing experience?
Well, I'm sure key things are going to be just time and patience, but there may be some virtue in getting some guidance from a behavioral expert, a dog trainer. You know, guests that we've had on the show who's Orlando-based but internationally known as Martin Dealey, very accessible. He or someone that he works with might be able to really help with this.
Okay, our next question is from Susan in Riverview, and this one's not for the queasy, but anybody who knows dogs will know about it. Susan's pet is Balto, and Susan says, my oldest hound, Balto, has suffered from coprophagia, now that is the eating of feces, his whole life. Over the years, we've tried various over-the-counter and prescription remedies to no avail. Is there a natural remedy to curb this craving?
From what I understand about that, there may not be a natural remedy to that. I mean, as long as it sounds like they've ruled out medical causes and other things. I mean, a lot of factors in that are boredom, stress, from what I understand. But generally, I think dogs that do that are going to do that. I mean, there's things that I've heard and read about where people put Tabasco sauce on the leavings, and it's like, wow, that's fairly elaborate. But I don't know of a natural supplement, but I just think that's sometimes things we just have to roll with in our dogs and what they do.
Up to the human to say a dog's a dog, and this dog?
This dog does that,
okay.
Yeah.
Our last question is from Crystal in Land O'Lakes. Her family has 2 cats, and they just recently purchased a puppy named Ozzy. She says, is it possible for our cats to be allergic to our new dog? They appear to be slightly swollen, and I know the puppy is driving my allergies crazy. If so, how can I take care of this?
Well, I think it's very possible, depending on what kind of puppy it is, that maybe the cats indeed are having an allergic reaction, and certainly sounds like Crystal is. So, yeah, I guess I would just say, you know, some of the basic things, you know, HEPA air cleaner, keeping the puppy off the furniture. There might be some supplements that would help with the skin of the puppy, and again, otherwise, back to my fallback position, maybe a vet should be consulted if they haven't been already.
But you know what? You did pretty well.
Well, not ready to hang out my shingle just yet, but we do our best. Yeah, so.
Thank you, and it's always fun to hear from our viewers in the community. So feel free to submit your questions and comments by going to our website at WDDU.org.